Hey everybody. Kind of felt like I left you hanging. Last week I gave you a video, and then this week kind of spaced out and didn't. Last week we talked about getting a new series going on a project from start to finish that is still in the works. Hopefully we will see something in the next couple weeks. The problem is I had to find somebody that was okay with me sharing the design on YouTube for everybody to see. I didn't want to share something that could potentially get me or the company I work for in any kind of, squabble, somebody not happy about it. But that is coming. So I just thought today I would jump in here and talk with everybody, just have a little conversation, maybe a bit more about me and my path into still detailing. So I got started in still detailing because I was going to a local community college and I did not want to be working at Burger King any longer. So I applied for a job in the career department and they got me an interview, so I went for the interview. It seemed to go okay, but then it took a while for me to hear back from anybody, so I started calling the owner of the company going, hey, did you make a decision? Did you make a decision? Did you make a decision? I called him about once, twice a week for like 3 weeks, and then finally he was like, yeah, we made a decision. Can you start this day? And I was like, yeah. But I still wasn't sure, so I didn't quit my job at Burger King. And they actually offered me an assistant manager job, which at the time I highly thought about taking. And I'm glad I didn't because I like what I do. So I got into still detailing and had absolutely no clue what still detailing was. I think a lot of us who weren't raised by somebody in the industry probably the same kind of thing. Like, it's drafting. That's what I thought. That's what I was going to school for. I took drafting in high school. I wanted to be a draftsman or a draftsperson. So when I got the opportunity to get this job, I jumped on it because, like I said, I didn't want to work at Burger King anymore. So I started training, and whenever I started, we were using a combination of AutoCAD Release 12 in DOS. Some of you might not know what DOS is. If you don't, look it up. And then the other part was pencil and paper. We still had a Blue Line machine, which was a large format copy machine that worked off of ammonia. So you had this paper you would pull out. One side would be white, the other side would be yellow. You would run the actual drawing you have on top of the yellow piece of paper through a machine, and then with the ammonia would make a copy of it, and the lines were typically blue. The reason why it was called a Blue Line machine. And it was good for the time. It worked great, but oh my gosh, was the smell horrible. I remember doing a job one time where they wanted a total of 7 sets of drawings, and there were 600 drawings on the job. So we spent 3 days running these, and we would take turns because after about 3 hours, you had to leave the room because it was almost like you couldn't even breathe. So you would like actually go outside to smell fresh air and then go do some detailing while somebody else ran some copies, and then it was time to switch again. So that wasn't a very fun time, but it's all about learning. And when you're starting off, you do what you're told. So if I was told to go out and mow the grass, you know what I did? I went out and I mowed the grass. And that did happen. I mowed the grass many times in my career for the company, not just at home. Still have to mow the grass today, but that's just part of getting a career, and you are the low person on the totem pole. I remember starting there, and I was very intimidated. I didn't know anything, and I was working with some of the smartest people I've ever met, and I still believe that the guy who trained me is one of the smartest detailers, and probably the best person I know at doing math. I've seen him do some math that just blows my mind, and I still don't understand how he keeps it all inside of his head. So that's how I got into detailing, and then I worked for that company for 15 years until a recession where by no fault of their own, there just had to be layoffs, and I was one of the last ones that got laid off. So after that, I moved to another company, and I was doing ground storage water tanks. And fuel tanks. So just a little bit of tanks all in general. We did water, fuel, nuclear cooling tanks. And it was a good job, and the company was great to work for. It's just I didn't find it as challenging as I found detailing, and I really like detailing. So one day, a buddy that I was working with, who was also looking for a job at the same time, he worked at the tank place too, was like, "Hey, this sounds like what you used to do." And I was like, that is what I used to do. I've never heard of that company, but I'll apply for the job. So I applied for the job, and then when I went to the company, I was like, oh, I know this company. They'd just recently been bought out by another company. So I didn't recognize the name. So I got that job and worked there for a couple of years, and it was great. They did a lot of industrial work, some great people I worked with there. And then I had we were slow, and I got kind of worried, so I went ahead and I applied for I don't even know if you'd say I applied for a job. I just sent my resume out to a different fabricator that was in the area, and I went up and met with them, and I got that job, and I was up there for like 7 years. Once again, worked with some great people, did some really fun work. And I think when I got there is when I started talking with more and more detailers that I didn't work with, making friends outside of work. And that got me back into, I really want to get better at not just SDS2, but detailing. So I had these people that I thought were really good, and I was like, the more I talk with these people, the more it's going to push me to be better, because I want to be a great detailer, and the only way to become a great detailer is to continue learning. So with talking with people outside of work that I looked up to, thinking, oh my gosh, how are they doing some of the stuff that they're doing, pushed me into, well, now I can do some of that stuff, and I'm still learning today. And it's great. You got to continue learning. If you want to be good, you have no choice but to continue learning. So that's kind of what the whole channel is about, is I want to share what I know, because maybe it'll help you learn something. And if you see something I'm doing on the channel that you're like, man, why is he doing it that way? If you do it this way, it's so much easier. I want to know. Let me know in the comments. Like I said, it's all about the education. Because there's a lot of people out there that maybe they start with SDS2 after detailing for years in AutoCAD, and they're running into some problems. So if I can help that person out and make their job easier, make their life a little easier, like, don't just struggle through the program. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to help. Myself is one. You can put a comment here and I can help you out, or you can reach out and find me on LinkedIn or places, and I'll help out. So that's my feelings on that, I guess. But after the place that I left, after the 7 years I was at that fabricator, my boss had left. The owner of the company retired and had some friends that owned a different fabricator, and he was like, hey, would you be interested in talking to some people? And I was like, yeah, it doesn't ever hurt to talk. And I went and talked with them, and the benefits were just really good. Couldn't really pass it up. And one of the major benefits is the ability to work from home. Because, before I took this job, I was putting over 70 miles a day on my car. So if you take that, 70 times just 5, it's 350 miles a week, 1,400 miles a month, 4,200 miles every 3 months. So, I'm getting an oil change every 3 months, and gas, everything, it just got expensive. So the ability to work from home let me go from 70 miles a day to 2 miles a week. I do have to go to our office occasionally, and it's a 2.5 hour drive to the company, but it's once a month, maybe once every 3 months, just whenever they really need me to come over. So it's still a lot less miles than I was doing. And don't get me wrong, the company I was working for is a great company. I still have a lot of friends that work there. And if I knew somebody looking for a job, I think it would be a great place for them to work. I still respect everybody that works there. And I'm not just saying that because I'm like, oh, what if I ever need a job again? That it's the truth. Like, if you work for a great company, it. Just sometimes, there's a lot of great companies out there. So it's just all on what you want to do and who you want to work for. And we've all been through that. But so that's a little bit about me. I guess I'm sure like my software choice is SDS2, because that's what most of my videos are going to be shown in.